lot of cases, has his team maxed itself out. So I posed a question to the guys before we went to break, as well as the listeners on the show: is if the Clippers don't, if they don't make Paul's prediction come true, what happens next? Do they keep the team intact the way it is? Does Doc have to go? Does Chris Paul have to go? Does Blake Griffin have to go? Paul, I'm gonna lead off with you because you picked them to be in the finals.
Right.
So who goes first?
Well, if you're asking me, it's none of them, honestly. But if I have to pick one, it's going to Blake Griffin. The big thing there for me is he's probably the highest trade chip they have, and on top of that, I don't know. I just don't think you get much back for Chris Paul.
Exactly. I don't think you get anything back for Chris. With Chris Paul, when it comes to getting anything back from Chris Paul, what do you mean you'll get anything back from Chris Paul?
Sorry, we were having quick technical difficulties there. I don't think you get the value back that you get back for Blake Griffin. For Blake Griffin, you can get a top-tier player, several picks. I mean, there's plenty there for you to get. For Doc, why would you get rid of Doc? I mean, he's had that team playing at a high level, so I don't think Doc is the issue. When I look at this season, for example, the games they played without Chris Paul, they looked awful, right? Right now, Blake Griffin is not playing, and this is the best basketball this team has played all year. Now, part of that, I think, is the fact of them just kind of getting their groove together. Like I said, they added some pieces that they didn't have last year. So now they're starting to get their flow going. Doc is getting a grasp for the team, what they can do. Players like Wesley Johnson are stepping up and playing well. Austin Rivers is starting to kind of get his role carved out. So I would say that you shouldn't get rid of any of them. I think that what they have is actually really good. They do need to find that missing piece. They're missing something. Mm-hmm. Now, it could be a guy that just hasn't stepped up, but they're missing something that's going to get them over the hump. But I don't know. If I'm going to get rid of somebody out of those three, it's Blake Griffin. Highest trade value, and I think he's slightly overrated.
Ooh. Mark, what do you think?
Man, this is tough, because at least from the outset, you don't see that, any one of these guys are a problem. You don't see that Blake Griffin has a problem with anybody. I mean, we heard about the DJ and Chris Paul thing, and DJ just thought Paul was too tough on him. You don't really see that dynamic with Blake Griffin and Chris Paul, so it's tough. And Blake Griffin and Chris Paul are so marketable. I'm like, as an owner, if my GM came to me and one of these guys have to go, or, can we trade him? I'm like, well, what possibly could be on the table? Because if I'm trading Blake Griffin, I might want half a team in return to trade Blake Griffin. I might want 5-6 guys along with 5 or 6 draft picks. The asking price, if I was owner, would be that high.
Wouldn't that be the reason to trade him as opposed to a 30, he'll be 32 by that time, right? 32-year-old point guard?
You're looking at somewhere around 31, 32 years old.
Yeah, so.
I'm like, man, but Chris Paul makes the engine go.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. For me.
You can't get rid of him. And here's the thing, surprisingly, right? Blake Griffin, he's a fantastic talent. But if you're asking what's harder to find, a pass-first point guard. It's harder to find than a high-octane, highly athletic player like Blake Griffin.
Right.
It's actually the pass-first point guard that's tougher to find. So if you get rid of him, if you think you got another guard that can step in and do even half of what Chris Paul does, you're sadly mistaken.
Well, Chris Paul will be 31 in May. So Chris Paul, has a lot of mileage on him. For me, in my opinion, it's got to be Chris Paul. Paul has to be one to go. Blake Griffin, and here's my reason behind it. I don't want to be the devil's advocate. I play that role most of the time on the show. Blake Griffin is 26 years old. His best friend's DeAndre Jordan. Basically, you have the front line that perfectly matches one another. Griffin's not exactly the best defensive player in the league, but DeAndre Jordan can erase the mistakes. If you have Chris Paul, you can get yourself a point guard. You can get one. I mean, let's be honest.
You can get a point guard.
I've said this for a very long time. If Kevin Durant stays in Oklahoma City, which is a high possibility, why don't you swap Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook?
I don't think it works. I don't think the Clippers work with Russell Westbrook. I don't think it works.
Why wouldn't?
Just like Russell Westbrook is a guy who kind of does his own thing. I mean, he's a leader at times. He can pass at times. He scores, certainly scores, a lot. I just don't think, he could take that group of guys and lead them to a title. I don't think he could do it. Not with that team.
Now, I think Chris Paul has been stellar in big moments, but he surely has been better than Blake Griffin. Okay. I mean, Blake Griffin got his manhood taken by Zach Randolph. Manhood gone.
But here's the thing. You're not asking Blake Griffin to be the guy to clutch the game. You're asking Russell Westbrook. Who in the NBA outside
if
of
you're
Durant?
Oklahoma City, do you do that trade, Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook? Absolutely not.
Why wouldn't you?
Why would you?
Because you put a pass first point guard with the best scorer in the NBA who can get him the ball.
And who else?
It's the same team.
I can't agree with you, man. Listen, if I'm Oklahoma City, I'm not doing that.
I think you would.
Russell Westbrook is a top 3 player in the NBA.
But you're going to lose Russell Westbrook.
To who? Who says?
The Lakers. I've said this for a long time now.
Listen, I agree with you. If he's going to go anywhere else, it is the Lakers because he's from there.
Everybody keeps talking Lakers. I think they're going to have to put something together before guys just want to come.
I agree.
Here's the thing, though.
100%.
They got to win something.
But the
got to win something.
But the Lakers are putting something together now. You have Russell. You have Randall. If somehow they can keep this pick this year, and they can land, like you said, I mean, if it's not number one, they can. If it's not Ben Simmons, it's maybe Brandon Ingram, and then you have all the cap space in the world to go sign a solid center. Why do you think Russell Westbrook would not want the bright lights of Los Angeles in his pocket?
I think he'll like L.A. because he's from the area.
From Long Beach,
the Lakers, and
UCLA.
He probably grew up a Lakers fan. I get that, but that roster and just the state of the Lakers franchise, I don't see anybody just wanting to sign up with them when ain't nobody wanted to sign up with them in the last few years.
Because you don't got to deal with Kobe.
Nobody wanted to come on board.
Because nobody wanted to deal with Kobe Bryant. Kobe's gone.
Well, I also think that Kevin Love re-signing in Cleveland hurt that scenario because I think Russell really wanted to play with Kevin Love in L.A., and I think that hurt.
But the Lakers still have Julius Randle. It's not Kevin Love, but Julius Randle's going to be a solid ball player. Solid. And you have Russell.
Yeah, but you know what, though? I mean, I'm like, I think that, but I'm just like the league probably looks at the Lakers and just, I don't even like that team, right?
Exactly.
And then even with Julius Randle, you say he's going to be a solid ball player, but with the way he's being done by Byron Scott amongst other young players,
exactly,
that kind of hurts his value with other guys in the league. Like,
all right, we got to cut, Mark. We got a hard break, buddy, so we got to cut off right there.
So we're going to take a break. This is for the second part of Full Court Press Radio, sponsored by SOFOELLC on the new 96.9 The Game.